Let us pray. Father, on this day of a new beginning, we ask for your guidance in the responsibility we have undertaken and your help in fulfilling our duties. As members of this legislative assembly, may we faithfully serve all Albertans and in serving them, serve you. Amen. Honorable members, would you please remain standing? As is the practice in this House, since the House last sat, we memorialize the members who have died. And in this case, there are two former members whom we remember on this day. Edward Philip Benoit, who passed away January the 22nd, 1991. He represented the constituency of Highwood, was first elected in the 1963 general election, re-elected in the 1967 and 71 general elections, and served until 1975. Charles Duncan Drain, who passed away January the 27th. He represented the constituency of Pincher Creek Crow's Nest, and was first elected to this legislature in the 1967 general election, was re-elected in the 71 general election, and served until 1975. Let us observe a moment of silence in their memory. Rest eternal grant unto them, O Lord, and let light perpetual shine upon them. Amen. The chair will respond to the arms for question period in just a moment or two. Thank you. On the desks of all honorable members, there should be a letter there dated March the 15th from myself, which deals with the matters of parliamentary practice, question period, the order paper, and introductions. And with the indulgence of the House, I would read just one portion of that, which relates to question period. The chair has taken note of the increasing length of the preamble to questions during question period. A random review of Hansard indicates that 6-sentence, 125-word preambles often precede the actual question, with some preambles reaching 8 sentences and 160 words. Although Beauchesne clearly indicates that supplementary questions should need no preamble, Hansard again indicates preambles to supplementary questions running to 4 sentences and 70 words. In order, no matter how quickly they're spoken, in order to preclude intervention by the chair this session, the chair would request that all members familiarize themselves with Beauchesne section 409, with particular emphasis on 409 subsection 2, which reads, and I quote, "The question must be brief. A preamble need not exceed one carefully drawn sentence. A long preamble on a long question takes an unfair share of time and provokes the same sort of reply. A supplementary question should need no preamble." And in addition, the chair would remind honorable ministers that the replies should be as brief as possible. Also on the desk of all members, there is the Commonwealth Day message from Her Majesty the Queen as head of the Commonwealth. And lastly, honorable members, yesterday marked the 12th anniversary for 7 members of this House who were first elected on the 14th of March in 1979. And so on behalf of all members, I hope that we will extend congratulations to the following members: Calgary Curry, Bonnyville, Three Hills, Calgary Fish Creek, McLeod, Fort McMurray, and Calgary Egmont.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
The chair recognizes the member for Rocky Mountain House.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to give oral notice of motion under Standing Order 40 that at the end of question period today I will seek unanimous consent of the Assembly in order to deal with the following motion. That the Legislative Assembly of Alberta recognize and extend congratulations regarding the world-class athletic achievements of Mr. Kurt Browning, three-time world's figure skating champion, and to the rink of Mr. Kevin Martin, winner of the 1991 Canadian Lats Brier.
Thank you. Member, Leader of the Liberal Party, member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under Standing Order 40 to request unanimous consent following question period to deal with the following motion. Be it resolved that when the government motion for consideration of His Honor the Lieutenant Governor's speech is called for debate, that the Speaker put the question forthwith and that the House leaders be directed to convene an emergency meeting to determine a method of using the Assembly's time to deal with the urgent and pressing matters of the provincial deficit, the state of the province's education and healthcare systems, and the lack of action by the current government.
Member for Edmonton Goldbar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I give notice pursuant to Standing Order 30 that after the daily routine today, I'll request leave to move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly in order to discuss the critical financial situation affecting women's shelters.
Member for Lacombe. Member for Lacombe. No, thank you. Additional. Thank you.
Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Family and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table responses to written questions numbered 313, 314, and 315 posed by the member for Edmonton Goldbar.
Minister of Consumer and Corporate Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to file with the Assembly a copy of a news release issued today challenging levels of government to become involved in plain language, and also our plain language discussion paper now underway with initiatives in Alberta.
Thank you. Minister of Transportation and Utilities.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to table the response to written question number 445.
Thank you. Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table responses to motions for return 370, 371, and 393.
Thank you. Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table with the House response to question number 397.
Thank you. Additional tablings. Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the annual report of the Alberta Association of Registered Nurses for the period October 189 to September 3090. I'm also tabling the financial statements for the Northern Alberta Children's Hospital for the period ended March 31, 1990. And finally, it's my pleasure to table responses to motions for return 220, 300, and 400.
Thank you. Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services.
Speaker, I'd like to file the responses to motion for return 412 and written question 443. As well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to voluntarily file under Section 37.3b of the Standing Orders the second anniversary report of approved projects under the Community Facility Enhancement Program. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table the 6th annual report of the Wild Rose Foundation for the year ending March 31, 1990.
Thank you. Additional from the government side. Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to table the annual report of the Alberta Public Safety Services for the year ending March 31st, 1990.
Thank you. Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to receive permission to table the response to written questions 402 and 404.
Thank you. Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to table documents from Forestry Lands and Wildlife indicating that Canadian Forest Products Limited 3 times in December and January violated important logging regulations to be met by a government response which first considered only minuscule fines and then in turn commuted these to...
Thank you, honourable member, honourable member, honourable member. We still abide by the rules in this House. Thank you.
Introduction of special guests.
Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly a group of students who are in the gallery today. They make up the Forum for Young Albertans. Mr. Speaker, there are 36 of them with us today. They are accompanied by their Executive Director, Blair Stolz, and 2 chaperones. Included in this group are 2 students from the province of Saskatchewan. These are high school students from all over the province who excel academically and who are active in their school and community. And they consider it an important part of their education to be aware of provincial and municipal issues that affect their community and province. I would like the House, Mr. Speaker, to give them a warm welcome.
Member for Drumheller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly, Dr. Douglas Jackson, Director of Canadian Studies at the University of Washington in Seattle. Dr. Jackson was present yesterday for the opening of the session and joins us today to observe our legislature in action. Dr. Jackson is sitting in your gallery, Mr. Speaker. I've now asked him to rise and receive the cordial welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and to members of the House the newly and recently appointed and reappointed members of the Alberta Multiculturalism Commission, whose job it is to steer government's new initiatives in this area. They're seated in the members' gallery, and I'd like them to stand as I call their names and then receive a warm greeting of the House. They are Dora Lamb, Joseph Matthew, Ernest Houle, Horst Olenek, Craig Curtis, Tom Epen, Moni Sandhu, Laurent Lamoureux, Adolphe Copey, Tessie Oliva, and the Secretary and Executive Director of the Commission, Manuel da Costa. On behalf of myself and the member from Redwater Andrew, the Chairman of the Commission, I'd like to welcome them to the House today.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Speaker, I'd like to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 44 students from St. Anne School who are accompanied by their teachers, Ms. Jean Nelson, Mr. Sean Carson, and Mrs. Roma Marchuk. I would ask that they stand and that the Assembly give them the usual warm welcome.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. Mr. Speaker, on this first question period, we have to focus on the government's incompetence and bungling, Mr. Speaker. You may recall, Mr. Speaker, that the government issued the TELUS prospectus in which it indicated that Novotel, a subsidiary of AGT, would post a $4 million profit. Lo and behold, Mr. Speaker, then it was a $17 million loss, Mr. Speaker. And now we find out that this company is going to lose the taxpayers of Alberta some $204 million. Total incompetence, and Mr. Speaker, by this government. My question to the minister is this. Given that the government owned Novotel until October of 1990, what explanation does he have for Albertans about this massive screw-up and loss of taxpayers' dollars?
Using that last phrase in this House, thank you.
Honorable Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Leader talks about the focus of this, the first question period, and this, the first question. I think the focus is this, and that is this government has not, and I won't use his word, Mr. Speaker, but we have not failed insofar as the economic diversification of this province. Here we are, an island in a sea of recession. Diversification is working, the advanced technologies are working, and telecommunications is working, Mr. Speaker. Insofar as the question itself, Mr. Speaker, we have responded in a very responsible way with the information as it became available. At all times, we relied upon the best information that was available to us. We have acted in a decisive way with respect to that information. The management committee is in place. It's reviewing Novotel and its complete situation, and we expect the responses to that will allow us to rejuvenate and refocus and restructure this company.
Thank you. Supplementary Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, some responsible way. $175 million to buy a $200 million deficit. That's really responsible. Shrewd business deal. Shrewd, Mr. Speaker. My question is to this minister, because this seems to be just the start, what guarantee will the minister give Alberta taxpayers that millions of more dollars of taxpayers' money will not be squandered on this company?
Mr. Speaker, I've indicated that we have set about an action plan. We have directed the management committee of this company to reassess it from a standpoint of technology, reassess the market, where it's at. Yes, it is a very significant loss. Not an unusual loss from the standpoint that other telecommunications companies are experiencing like losses. And I refer the honorable members to the Financial Post this morning, where a leading telecommunications expert has indicated the losses that have occurred elsewhere and indicated the difficulty of a competitive business. But it's disappointing, the results are disappointing, and we're doing something about it, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, you sold a profit-making company that was making money that could have covered the losses, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality. Now, Mr. Speaker, we don't have money for education, health care, the poor, nothing else. And I want to ask this minister a serious question. When the principal group minister lost $150 million, the premier fired her. Will the minister do the honorable thing with this massive amount of money lost and then tender his resignation to the premier right now?
Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud to be a minister of this government and what it's done for the economic situation in this province compared to the rest of Canada and the world. Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member would look at the record and look at the AGT and the Novotel situation as a whole, he would see that AGT and Novotel, neither of them returned a dollar to the general revenue fund of this province, to the taxpayer. Through the privatization of AGT, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars actually have been in fact injected into the general revenue fund. We have a 44% interest that is in fact appreciated by $120 million since the day of the privatization. We've received $13.5 million by way of dividends, Mr. Speaker. The privatization of AGT was a total success for the taxpayer of Alberta.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, if it wasn't so sad, it would be funny an answer like that, Mr. Speaker. But my question is to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, let us move from gross mismanagement and sheer bungling of this government to its secrecy and continuing attempts to present false financial information to taxpayers of this province. Mr. Speaker, every year this government uses Budget Day to try and present the image that the deficit is under control, but historically has done this by overestimating revenue and underestimating spending, Mr. Speaker. However, as the government's estimate of the deficit goes down, its special warrant spending goes up. Mr. Speaker, in 1990-91 alone, this government spent $600 million more in this way than it said it would in its 1990 budget. My question to the Premier is simply this. Will the Premier tell Alberta taxpayers why we have this out-of-control special warrant spending? Is it clumsy incompetence at budgeting, or is it to mislead the people on budget day, or is it a combination of both?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member knows from the period of time he's been in the legislature and that this government and all governments present a budget, and then during the course of a year there are unanticipated expenditures that are required. It happens in the parliamentary system throughout England and Canada, and we are faced with such things that are unanticipated as the nurses' settlement, which required a great deal of money, forest fires, disasters that require funding where we help Albertans and they need help. In those cases, Mr. Speaker, I think it's being a responsible government. If we have more students in the schools, we make sure the dollars are there. And Mr. Speaker, it happens. I should point out to the honourable member that is a small percentage of the total budget. And in fact, there are lapses from some departments that make up in a large way for these special warrants.
Well, this whole government's lapsing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my point to the Premier is simply this. Special warrants are for emergencies. Let's look at the figures. $188 million by Special Warrant 86. 286 in 87, 369 in 88, 392 in 1989, $600 million. Total of $1.835 billion, Mr. Speaker, through an undemocratic means. My question to the Premier, how does the Premier justify this amount of money being spent by undemocratic means in the last 5 years? $1.875 billion.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in a way I answered the question when I replied to his first question. This is something that happens in all parliaments. We deal with a budget at budget time, and then during the full course of a year, there are unanticipated expenditures, and they are then dealt with. You help the people of Alberta when they need help. Then those special warrants are dealt with through the Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't think there's nothing strange about this. Nobody likes special warrants, but if we're prepared to be there to help Albertans when they need help.
Speaker, in Britain they beheaded a king for doing this. He should have lived in Alberta now, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the question is, this is clear. The government sells a fairy tale to Albertans on budget day and then overspends like a drunken sailor and closed doors throughout the year. And my question to the Premier, how does the Premier expect Albertans to believe his upcoming budget, talking about a balanced budget, when they have such escalating overspending in the last 5 years? How does he expect Albertans to believe? Why should we?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member isn't correct. There have been years during the period of time he's discussing when we have come in much lower than anticipated expenditures. So the honourable member is just incorrect. But, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the provincial treasurer, when he returns from the finance minister's meeting, may want to deal with this in more detail. But the honourable member has to realize that this is a fact where the government helps Albertans when they need help.
Leader of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the minister responsible for telephones. I was surprised to hear him say that AGT going private was a success. In fact, it was a horrendous nightmare. And the nightmare continues now with the Novotel. The Alberta taxpayer had to pay $159 million to buy that company back. It had to pay $21 million to cover some previous losses. It had to do loan guarantees to AGT of some $525 million, $175 million in loans from the Alberta Loan Fund. My first question to the minister is this. given that the minister is responsible to the taxpayers of Alberta, given that he's supposed to be a steward to look after their money, will he accept responsibility for not having done his homework, for not having looked in on the financial situation?
Order, 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 order! Acoustics must be bad at that end of this chamber. The final question without another paragraph inserted, honorable member. Please take your seat. Please take your seat. The question, succinctly.
I want the minister to agree that it was his mistake and he's responsible for it.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that the information that was relied upon by this minister and this government was reviewed by 2 auditors, 2 national accounting firms, they audit them, 11 of national underwriting firms in Canada, and on that basis, we relied upon that information, and that was the basis for the decisions that we made. And I believe that those decisions were correct decisions in the interest of the taxpayer. If you look at AGT before, Mr. Speaker, you will find that it was mired in debt. 90% of its assets were debt. We put that out. It required $2 to $3 billion in additional capital investment. All of that has been removed for the taxpayer, and the taxpayer is a winner on AGT.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, given that we now have an $880 million infusion of money for loan guarantees, and given that Albertans don't want any more surprises, will the minister guarantee, will he assure Albertans that there are no more surprises, that there are no more monies that are going to have to be paid to Novotel to prop them up even more?
Mr. Speaker, what I will say to the honourable member is that an action plan is underway. It was underway for the moment that we reacquired this company. That action plan involves a complete reassessment of Novotel in all of its aspects, and we will be studying that, and decisions will be made by the management committee in conjunction with that.
Final.
Mr. Speaker, given that the minister can't give us that assurance, given that he can't give comfort to the Alberta taxpayer, is he prepared to call on the Auditor General to go in there and to do a complete financial and business assessment and tell us whether or not it should be shut down or business plans changed so that they make sense for Albertans? Is he prepared to do that?
Mr. Speaker, talking about people not doing their homework, the honourable member should know that the Auditor General already reviews those things with the Novotel.
Member for Red Deer North, the discussion is at an end on that one. Thank you. Red Deer North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions to the Minister of Career Development and Employment. In light of the fact that it appears there's an ongoing trend for Alberta to have the lowest unemployment rates in the country, as indicated by predictions from 4 major banks and the Conference Board of Canada, which says that Alberta will experience positive economic growth in spite of recession in other parts of the country. My question and my concern to the minister is, in light of the ongoing efforts to balance the budget, has the provincial treasurer approached the minister and asked him to reduce his emphasis on career development and retraining programs in light of our present low unemployment rates?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's very difficult to answer that question because I wouldn't want to endanger the provincial treasurer's budget by any means, but would indicate that certainly recognize the trend, and I'm glad the opposition are aware of the latest unemployment stats.
Honourable Minister, thank you. Thank you, honourable members. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad the opposition recognized that Alberta is enjoying the lowest unemployment stats in Canada, 7.6. They're right for a change. I'm pleased they do realize that. But I would say, Mr. Speaker, that the emphasis will definitely be on career training. There will be some $100 million allocated in this department's budget alone, in excess of $100 million, I might add. Perhaps the Minister of Advanced Education would wish to supplement, because I'm sure there'll be extra incremental dollars as well within their own department.
Thank you, Speaker. Will the minister indicate to us that in light of the incoming investment and also an incoming migration of workers into the province, is this having a negative impact on Alberta's labor force?
Well, I'm confident, Mr. Speaker, that yes, while there's an in-migration of some 3,800 in January and some 3,000 in February, that the Alberta skilled workforce will be able to adapt to that, and those that have the necessary skills and training will continue to have the best jobs that are available. I might add, through the Department of Career Development and Employment, we're going to be enhancing by introducing an Alberta Apprenticeship and Industry Training Act, which we would believe will commit to the ongoing benefit and training of all Albertans.
Edmonton Jasper Place, followed by Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In dispatching an official from his department to Quebec to negotiate the importation of hazardous waste, PCP, contaminated soil, Minister of the Environment said yesterday that that shipment would have to await the expansion of the plant facility, that we wouldn't be able to take the waste until the expansion is made. The Minister has made the link between the expansion and the importation of waste. I simply want to ask him if he will justify his previous decision to exclude that issue of importation from the review of the expansion. Is this another ALPAC 2 step, so we hide the issue from the public?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I see the honourable member is just as paranoid as ever. Moving up to the front benches hasn't changed his demeanour at all. Mr. Speaker made a comment yesterday that indeed some months ago the province of Quebec approached the province of Alberta to accept some PCBs that had been rendered harmful through a fire at Saint-Basile-le-Grand, and those negotiations haven't resulted yet in a response from Quebec. It would be up to this government to once again decide if we were to accept those PCBs. Certainly we're in a position of accepting those that are in liquid form. However, because we are in the process now of conducting an environmental impact assessment relative to expansion of the plant with relationship to solids, we are not in a position at this particular time to accept the solids from Quebec, or even from within this province. It has absolutely nothing to do with the question of possible, and I stress possible, importation of hazardous waste.
Well, as tempting as it is to respond to the insult about paranoia, I'm conscious of the chair's admonition about preambles, and we'll get right down to it. The point is the review process that Albertans have on this project. And in the first instance, he takes away the issue of importation. Secondly, he's refused to allow the Natural Resources Conservation Board to hear that process. And I would like to know, in view of the fact that the...
Hold it. Thank you. The admonition applies to interjections on all sides of the House, government members. I know that this particular member likes to also indulge in this kind of thing, so I think for all members of the House, we'll all be quiet to listen to somebody else, so that when you get a chance to stand up, somebody will be quiet enough to listen to you. The question, please, Edmonton Jasper Place.
The Natural Resources Conservation Board passed this assembly. It was touted by the government as an independent review process. Why has the government refused to allow this whole issue, importation expansion, to go to the NRCB for review?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I really don't know where the honourable member is coming from, as usual. But, Mr. Speaker, I have said time and time again, if indeed the matter of importation of hazardous waste is to become part of the government's agenda, it will not become part of that agenda until there is full consultation with Albertans. And I've also said that there would be a process established, and very likely through the NRCB, to have public hearings, as there will be public hearings on the expansion of the plant itself. And if indeed the matter of importation reaches the government's agenda, there will be public hearings on that particular aspect as well. And that should alleviate any fears the honourable member might have.
Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to address a question to the Minister for Technology, Research and Telecommunications following up on Novotel. We purchased this company back, Mr. Speaker, not even 3 months ago for $159 million. And we learned recently we've got a $200 million loss. My question to the Minister very simply is this, Mr. Speaker. How is it that we just now know that we got a $203 million loss when we bought it only 3 months ago?
I think you just take that up with the auditors, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member can do that. We received the information on Tuesday evening. We disclosed it publicly on Wednesday morning.
Well, Mr. Speaker, responsibility flows to the top, and that's this minister right here. The question I have then, Mr. Minister, is this. Why is it that the company was allowed to account for sales before they actually had the money in the bank? What's going on with the funny bookkeeping going on?
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's a strange question, and from the honourable member, I don't know how to even respond to it, quite frankly. The point is that we received information as to those losses. We disclosed it publicly immediately. It was part of the action plan in any event to review all the financial aspects, all the management structures of this company, its competitive position, the state of its technology. All of that reassessment's been done. Our objectives are clear, and the action plan to be carried out by the management committee is clear, and that is to refocus this company, to restructure it, and to rejuvenate it, because it can be a big player, as it has been before, in the telecommunications business for Alberta.
Athabasca Laklavish, followed by Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Honourable Minister of Environment. We all know that Alberta has the highest environmental standards in Canada in relation to cultural affluent. I would hope that our government can again be a leader, like in many areas, a leader and push for the establishment of Alberta standards across Canada. Now, the socialists to my left can play a key role here because they can, I'll challenge them, in fact, I'll challenge them to get their colleague in Ontario who has 25 pulp. Order! Hold on.
An honourable member suggests that I should get a gong for the gong show, or is there something else? Honourable member, the question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Honourable Minister is, can he give assurance to this Assembly that he will initiate the necessary action to move forward and get Canada to establish standards like Alberta?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the question from the honourable member because, indeed, I've said from time and time again, people who come to this province from other jurisdictions and criticize our standards ought to look first in their own backyard, especially in the province of Ontario, where they really do have rotten, stinking, belching, polluting pulp mills. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would be very, very happy to take to the Council of Ministers of Environment a proposal that the national standard be established not at 2.5 kilograms per air-dried ton of chlorinated organics, but at a minimum of 1.5, which is a standard in Alberta. 2.5 is a standard that is now being proposed by the national government, and indeed, I think it would serve the pulp industry very, very well indeed if all the jurisdictions in this country were to achieve the standards that Alberta has achieved.
Mr. Speaker, my final supplement, will the Honourable Minister of Environment give assurance to this Assembly that he will pass on the necessary information to the official opposition so they can fax that information to Ontario so they can meet our standards down the road somewhere?
be very, very glad. Certainly it'll all be contained in Hansard, and perhaps they can send along to the province of Ontario, and the Liberal opposition perhaps can send along to the province of Quebec, and maybe those two provinces will be able to see what is happening in the province of Alberta and follow our lead in establishing the best achievable standards in the world.
Edmonton Avonmore. Edmonton Avonmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are directed to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, daily we are confronted with injury and sometimes death of women and children at the hands of men who do or have professed to love them. At the same time that courts mandate treatment, and expert and community workers state that treatment of offenders is an essential part of the work to eradicate violence in the family. To the Premier, will he now demonstrate his commitment to ending violence in the family by directing his ministers to fund treatment programs throughout the province?
Of course, Mr. Speaker, nobody condones or in any way accepts this part of our society where we have abuse of children or any member of a family. In our government, we have three departments really that work together: the Department of Health, the Department of Family and Social Services, and the Solicitor General in this area. And I would ask perhaps the Solicitor General to respond, but other ministers who are involved may also wish to.
Supplementing, Mr. Speaker, I've just received a report that indicates from the department that there are 25 separate components of our program in respect to family violence that have been and are in place at this time. So it is my belief that we are showing true commitment to this very serious social problem in this province, and it will take some time for that commitment and the actions under those commitments to show the positive results that we want. And I would hasten to add, Mr. Speaker, that the harder we dig out and root out these problems in society, these abusers of family, of wives and children, the harder we work at it, the more we are going to find of them. So it's going to be more evident as time passes by through our initiatives that these people are rooted out and receive greater recognition in the press.
Mr. Speaker, they need not only recognition but treatment. Given that the City of Edmonton Task Force reports that one man treated successfully saves the system $40,000 a year, at the same time that the Changing Ways treatment program is asking for the same amount to treat 100 men, thereby saving the system as much as $4 million a year. Will the Premier now recognize that funding treatment programs shows good fiscal sense by stating here today that the province will take responsibility for treatment of batters and that the Changing Ways program will not have to close its doors due to lack of funds?
Mr. Speaker, I understand the representation from the honourable member, and I believe the Solicitor General actually answered her question when she first placed it.
To Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Private developers just received approval from the Alberta Planning Board to proceed with a major development, including a golf course, an equestrian center, and 750 homes near the Elbow River on the western outskirts of Calgary. Mr. Speaker, the City of Calgary's drinking water supply could be jeopardized by such a massive development, and for this reason is opposed by the City of Calgary and nearby residents in the Springbank area. My questions to the Minister of Environment. Given that the Minister promised earlier this week to consult municipal governments and all Albertans in decisions which affect the ecological integrity of our river basins, why did this Minister not order an environmental impact assessment, including public hearings, before this massive Elbow Valley development was allowed to proceed?
First of all, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is way ahead of himself. There are processes that have to be followed in any endeavor of development, whether it's industrial development or municipal development. The first step is to go through the process of land use redesignation. And that involves a series of public hearings at the municipal level. The second step is to go through the development permit process to get actual development permits for the project. And that could involve, again, another set of public hearings through the Development Appeal Board. It's after those municipal approvals have taken place that the Department of Environment gets into the act. Now, I have received a letter from the Mayor of Calgary. I have asked my department to examine in detail that letter, to take all the concerns expressed in that letter into consideration, and on the basis of that, do a preliminary environmental evaluation, and we will see where we take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, but there's no mention of an EIA in the minister's remarks, and I have a letter from him to one of my colleagues in which he says that ministerial consent was granted to this project. My question to the minister is, how could he justify doing this without insisting that a proper environmental assessment study be done in the first place?
No. Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is wrong. What we did is we did an evaluation not of the project per se, but of the sewage treatment process that was proposed. And as a result of a preliminary evaluation of that sewage treatment process, we did indeed determine that it meets acceptable municipal standards. But as a result of the letter received from the Mayor of Calgary on March the 5th, I have instructed the department, and this must hopefully make the honourable member happy. I've instructed my department to do a further evaluation of the project in total to determine if, in fact, a full-blown environmental impact assessment will be necessary.
Member for Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, colleges in Alberta have been overwhelmed by a landslide of applications for next fall. At Mount Royal College in Calgary, they already have 3,000 applications, and they only have 3,000 spaces for 7,500 applications. Similar situations exist at Grant MacEwan, Red Deer, and Grant Prairie, where thousands, literally thousands, will be turned away. My question is to the Minister of Advanced Education. Mr. Minister, what are you telling prospective students and their parents when they call you and say they are disgusted with your government's funding policies? Are you telling them to go to Ontario or to go to the U.S.?
Mr. Speaker, one of the reasons, I think, for the tightening up of access to the post-secondary system is the very success of our institutions. We have the highest participation rate in the country in terms of post-secondary education. Matter of interest, the honourable member, also the highest number of degrees per capita in the country. Mr. Speaker, I believe we have still within our system of colleges, technical institutes, and universities, to which the honourable member is referring to, space for those students. I would point out, Mr. Speaker, that I rely on the institutions to set those admission standards and expect them to accommodate the applicants. And in all fairness, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about September 1991, and I think that is a fair time away from the present time.
My second question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Premier. Mr. Premier, why didn't yesterday's throne speech indicate a commitment to accessibility to post-secondary institutions? Is that because your government is willing to see thousands of qualified Albertans turned away, shut out?
Well, Mr. Speaker, if I may respond, a reference to the throne speech, clearly this government's committed to continuing its policy not only on quality but access, and a mention is made in the throne speech, Mr. Speaker, which will be announced in the budget, I'm sure, about a new tuition fee policy indicating that there must be funds available in the post-secondary system to maintain that quality. I think, Mr. Speaker, that commitment by the government gestured in the throne speech will be honored.
Banff Cochrane, followed by Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to continue this line of questioning by addressing my question to the Minister of Advanced Education. This government has consistently committed to education of our young people and those who are moving through the system. However, the waiting lists at our universities are getting longer and longer. And in fact, as I understand it now, the pre-registration average required to get into university is 75%. My question to the minister is, would he take the bold step of moving forward and granting degree granting status to other institutions of higher learning in this province to assist our young Albertans to have that degree that they can use to move out into the workplace?
Mr. Speaker, it's always very tempting to take bold steps. However, one wants to be very cautious before they embark upon those. I'd point out, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member with reference to degree granting, it's a very valid question. It should be pointed out. We have some very great success stories now, Mr. Speaker. Baccalaureate nursing program, University of Alberta and Red Deer College, Keano College in Fort McMurray and Athabasca U. We do have some of those in place, Mr. Speaker. I'm committed, as stated earlier, to a decision on the whole question of degree granting prior to the end of 1991, and I intend to keep that commitment.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that response, Mr. Speaker, but I'm concerned about those students who will be attempting to enter into institutions of higher learning in September. Pending this report, does the minister have any interim measures that he would bring forward to the House today?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I do hope it's remembered by honourable members, for a province with only 8% of Canada's people, we do have the 4 universities in Alberta, plus the 3 private colleges that grant degrees. There's a fair number of opportunity now. The whole question, Mr. Speaker, whether or not degree granting should be granted to the college system, surely must depend on the merit of that degree and the interest of the student. And I'm reluctant to proceed at this time with that, Mr. Speaker, bearing in mind the advice I'm receiving from both the University's Coordinating Council and others who, quite frankly, have the interest of the student at heart.
Edmonton Highlands, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, in the fall sitting of the Assembly, the official opposition called on the government, and particularly the Advanced Education Minister, to bring in a revised budget to avert the crisis that is now happening, not just through universities, but throughout colleges and technical institutions. The fact remains, Mr. Speaker, that including this year's budget, funding in real terms for those institutions has fallen by 14% since 1987. Will the minister now agree that in fact it is a funding problem that rests with him and his cabinet and not the students and not the Students' Finance Board that is causing this crisis?
Mr. Speaker, I do believe it's important to point out not only to the honourable member but the members of the House that on a per capita basis, Alberta is amongst the leaders in Canada with post-secondary funding. I mean, it's very clear that the province of Ontario is 9th out of 10. Now, Mr. Speaker, I continue to urge the government to maintain, and the government agrees, priority as its #1 education along with health. Mr. Speaker, we're approaching budget time, which will be in the next few weeks according to the Treasurer, and I can assure the honourable member at that time that the Department of Advanced Education will get due deliberation in this House with regard to funding.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister might be interested to know that the Ontario government, including in a tough time, has found 7.3% increase on a per-pupil basis. That's the way this government ought to review education, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question is to the Minister of Education, who apparently governs a department that is now the 5th lowest in Canada when it comes to funding on a per-pupil basis. Will the minister explain to Albertans how it is that it can still be argued by the government that education is a top priority for this government when funding has fallen 3 points in the last 1 year?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've pointed out in this Assembly in the past, we spend on average in this province some $5,300 per student. Each of those $5,300 comes out of provincial and local taxpayers' pockets. And when you consider that on a classroom of 28 or 29 students, Mr. Speaker, we're close to $150,000 to $160,000 of taxpayers' dollars being invested on our children's education in each and every classroom in this province.
Incredible.
Mr. Speaker, I consider that a very substantial investment by all Albertans in quality education for our young people.
Edmonton Medal Art.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on October the 18th, the Minister of the Environment announced unequivocally that the $60 million expansion of the Swan Hills Waste Management Plant, and I quote, is for Albertans to ensure that we have the best means in place to deal with wastes generated in this province. We now are all at a loss to understand how the minister could forget this statement and advocate importing 1,500 tons of PCBs from Quebec. In the absence of any other obvious explanation, could the minister please explain whether this is some new, subtle negotiating strategy to try to convince Quebec that, in fact, there is a reason for them to stay in Canada?
Where's all this coming from? This must be coming from the Edmonton Journal because, you know, it sounds like a fairy tale to me. It's, I just can't, Mr. Speaker, I gave a speech to the First Nations Conference yesterday, and I talked about the leadership that the province of Alberta has demonstrated in environmental protection. And I said, and rightfully so, that this is the only province in Canada to have a facility as phenomenal as the Special Waste Management Facility at Swan Hills. Right. And I said, if you don't believe me, ask the people in Quebec who are now stuck with a whole bunch of PCBs. Ask the people in Saskatchewan and the Northwest Territories and British Columbia who are asking us now to accept their waste because they can't cite one of these things. They can't cite one of these things, and we have one. And I simply said that some months ago, Quebec asked once again if they could ship the PCBs that were rendered harmful through the fire at Saint-Basile-le-Grand, if we would consider once again accepting those PCBs. I sent an official down to begin discussions with the people of Quebec. We haven't received a response from the Quebec government as of yet. And if we receive a response, it will have to once again go through government to decide whether, in fact, we will receive those PCBs. That is to set the record straight.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder whether the minister could please explain to us why he would consider for one moment that Quebec should get the benefits of its industrial enterprise while he turns around and asks Albertans to accept the risks of transporting and destroying the toxic waste created as a result of their industrial enterprise.
Well, first of all, there was a resolution by this government some time ago that we would indeed accept on humanitarian grounds those PCBs. Because of an election in the province of Quebec, they wanted to get rid of those PCBs much faster than we were willing to accept them. Therefore, they tried to send them off to Wales, and of course, the longshoremen in Wales refused to unload them. The election was then held. The PCBs ended up in the Prime Minister's home constituency of Baie-Comeau. And once again, the province of Quebec came back to us and said, "Would you accept them?" And I've already given the history. But I would like to explain something else, Mr. Speaker, because I think this is very, very important. When we're talking about this whole issue of toxics from other jurisdictions, it might be of interest to note that for the honourable member to note that the Northwest Territories now ship all their hazardous waste from the northern border of Alberta to the southern border of Alberta, all the way through this province to a special hazardous waste landfill in Oregon. In other words, it goes all the way through this province. Wouldn't it make sense, even to the honourable member?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Edmonton Goldbarn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we talk about providing counseling for children who've been victims of sexual abuse, there are a number of points that need to be made on both sides of the issue of contracted agency versus fee-for-service. We've been told, Mr. Speaker, that two critical agencies within the Department of Family and Social Services have or soon will be cut. One major concern that has not been dealt with is how much added responsibility and stress the department is planning to dump on the already overburdened frontline child welfare worker who is unlikely to be trained to deal with child sexual abuse. My question, Mr. Speaker, is to the Minister of Family and Social Services. Will the minister confirm to this House that his department will be cutting, Mr. Speaker, the hours of operation to the 24-hour Child Welfare Crisis Unit, a move that will force clients in crisis...
Thank you, Honourable Member. Whoa, you got the question in. Honourable Minister.
No, Mr. Speaker, we aren't cutting the 24-hour crisis line.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister then confirm that he has instructed his department to disband the Child Welfare Consultation Unit, which is the unit frontline workers rely upon for support in more complex cases?
Mr. Speaker, what we are doing is making every effort that we can to make sure that the frontline resources are just there on the front lines, there to respond to the families and children that are in need. And as the member for Edmonton Gold Bar knows, that we as a government and we as a department have made that a very high priority, and we're focusing those resources on the front line, and we're going to continue to do that, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Time for question period has expired. The Chair wishes to thank the cooperation of members on both sides of the House. We've finally been able to get many more members involved in question period. Before we go to, well, first, orders of, no, hold it. Before we go on to the rest of our routine, order, please. Chair, appreciate your comments, flip as they are and as humorous as they often are, but perhaps on a one-to-one basis, Honourable Member. Might we have unanimous consent of the House to revert briefly to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Member for Clover Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 55 visitors from the constituency of Clover Bar. I'd like to welcome our students from the Fort Saskatchewan Elementary School, who are accompanied today by Mr. Alexandruk, Mrs. Clark, Mrs. DeRegio, Mrs. Holland, Mrs. Fisher, Mrs. Katcher, Mrs. Paxton, Mrs. Barley, Mrs. Peltonen, Mrs. Hale, and Mr. Lavidiere. Our guests are seated in the public gallery. I would ask them now to rise, and I would ask the House to extend our traditional warm welcome.
Standing Order 30 request, Member for Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to a request that we adjourn the business of the Assembly to deal with the critical financial situation affecting women's shelters. Mr. Speaker, if I can speak briefly to the urgency of the matter.
Thank you. The problem, Jim?
Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Order. With due respect, at last report, the chair was here, not over there. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Honourable Minister believes this is an acceptable situation. I don't know. Mr. Speaker, family violence is gaining on us. We're losing ground here. The Solicitor General attested to this morning. There are many people in our province that are caught up in this tragedy. The incidence is increasing. The circumstances, Mr. Speaker, in shelters are critical. We're in a crisis and emergency situation in many of our communities. Mr. Speaker, 5,376 families were turned away last year. 3 women or children were turned away for every one sheltered. Mr. Speaker, we're talking about women and children who are every day beaten and abused in their own homes and for whom there may be no refuge or shelter in our province. Mr. Speaker, there are 3 questions that I believe we need to have answered today. Does the government believe this is a crisis? Because I do, and I believe our communities do. Does the government believe that this situation is an acceptable one and should be allowed to continue as we are doing? And the third one, and most important, Mr. Speaker, is will the government commit to addressing this intolerable situation immediately to resolve the problem?
official opposition. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the context of information that was mainly not revealed by government ministers this morning, I can certainly attest to the need for this kind of debate, Mr. Speaker, and also the need for a lot more information and a commitment by the government to make sure that 2 out of 3 applicants, that is 2 out of 3 battered women, are not turned away from shelters. This is not a lighthearted issue. It's a serious problem. We also learned this morning, Mr. Speaker, that the government is not prepared to put more money into the treatment of batterers, which means that the problem is going to get worse. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker. I believe that this subject has been hidden from public view for many years. It's been almost taboo to talk about. In the last few years, Mr. Speaker, the opposition has made this an issue that needs to be talked about and needs the address of the government itself in a concerted fashion. There are a lot of women who are suffering, Mr. Speaker, and a lot of children that are suffering at the hands of those who say they love them. I think we need to make this a top priority issue and get some active resolutions under consideration. And I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Government House Leader.
Just the opportunity for debate exists on this subject exists today. This matter was mentioned in the speech from the throne. The honourable member wants to debate it today, and the whole point of a Standing Order 30 motion is that there is no other opportunity for debate. Debate can take place today. It's clearly, despite the fact it is a serious issue, something that this Assembly can debate today in the throne speech debate. On the other hand, I note we'll shortly be dealing with a request by the leader of her party to abandon throne speech debate. Very puzzling.
Thank you. Under the provisions of Standing Order 30, the Chair has listened to representatives from each caucus speak. The Chair has also had opportunity, having received the notice, to have research done with respect to previous occasions when early in a sitting that similar requests have been made. The Chair would point out, however, that the issue is being dealt with because of the opportunity for debate. It is not being dealt with because of the sensitivity of the issue and the whole matter of women's shelters in particular. However, the House on March the 15th of 1985 and again on April the 4th of 1986, March the 21st of 1980, similar situations arose. And to quote Speaker Amarongan from April the 4th of 1986, very briefly, and I quote, "I'm not aware of any precedent in the long history of Canadian parliaments where a motion or a proposal of this kind has been found to be in order early in the throne speech debate. And here we are not only early in the debate, we haven't even started it yet. And under the circumstances, I think it would be wrong to establish as a precedent that this kind of motion should be made in the early stages of the throne speech debate or even before it starts. And I am therefore obliged to say that the motion may not be put." End of quote, and the Chair concurs with my illustrious predecessor. First request under Standing Order 40, the member for Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The motion that I'm seeking unanimous consent for today is that the Legislative Assembly of Alberta recognize and extend congratulations regarding the world-class athletic achievements of Mr. Kurt Browning, 3-time world figure skating champion, and the rink of Kevin Martin, winner of the 1991 Canada Labatt's Brier. Mr. Speaker, Kurt Browning's gold medal performance yesterday at the Men's World Figure Skating Championship in Munich, Germany, is an athletic achievement that all Albertans can be truly proud of.
In his performance last night, Kurt completed 3 triple combination jumps, a feat that has never been done before in competition. Even though he did not use his famous quad yesterday, I must mention he is the only person to use it successfully in competition. The win marks the 3rd time in a row he has won the World Championship. No Canadian has ever achieved such a high level of accomplishment in this field. Kurt is a native of Caroline, Alberta, where his family still lives. He began his career in the Rocky Mountain House Figure Skating Club before he moved to Edmonton to practice with his coach, Michael Jaranek, at the Royal Glenora Club. Kurt is preparing now to represent the province and Canada at the 1992 Olympics in Albertville, France. Mr. Speaker, he is truly an outstanding ambassador for Canada. The second athletic achievement that should be recognized by the Legislative Assembly is the rink of Kevin Martin, who took first place at the Labatt-Brier Curling Championship in Hamilton, Ontario. This team consists of Kevin Martin skip, Kevin Park third, Dan Petriak second, and lead Don Bartlett. Martin's rink will now advance to the World Curling Championship in Winnipeg later this month and will also represent Canada in the 1992 Winter Olympics. Mr. Speaker, I move that the Legislative Assembly congratulate these Alberta athletes and recognize their outstanding contribution to the world sporting community.
Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As chair of the Official Opposition Caucus, it is my pleasure on behalf of my colleagues to extend our congratulations to Mr. Kurt Browning in his winning of the Men's World Figure Skating title for a 3rd time, and to Mr. Kevin Martin, winner of the 1991 Canadian Labatt-Brier. These are very talented Albertans and are certainly an inspiration to all of us, and so it is with a great deal of pride that I offer our congratulations on behalf of my colleagues. We'd also like to wish Mr. Martin and his team the best of luck in the World Curling Championship.
Thank you, honorable members. The chair is engaged in the midst of a flurry of notes here and has inadvertently allowed certain matter to proceed. The last speaker should not have spoken just yet. But if indeed the unanimous consent of the House is given to proceed, those comments will then, of course, have been in the record. All those in favor of granting unanimous consent for the matter to proceed, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. The matter is carried. Thank you for your comments. Edmonton Calder. The chair recognizes the member for Edmonton Goldbar. Edmonton Whiteman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to say that on behalf of our caucus, we're prepared to support the motion that has been put forward. It's an extremely good motion that recognizes again that talent that keeps emerging out of Alberta, all parts of Alberta. Kurt Browning, of course, even though he trains here in Edmonton at the Royal Glenora Club, here in Edmonton, the city of champions.
All right.
His homeland is, in fact, in Caroline, Alberta. So again, on behalf of our caucus, we're proud to support the motion.
Call for the question. I was already here. All those in favor of the motion as proposed by the member for Rocky Mountain House, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let the record show unanimously, and the chair will communicate in the usual fashion. Chair. The Leader of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, the call for reform, parliamentary reform amongst Albertans is loud. Yesterday I spoke at a symposium of the social sciences faculty at the University of Calgary, and most of the questions and most of the concern was with respect to the issue of reform. The motion that I am proposing and asking for members to consider today is to deal expeditiously with the debate on the speech from the throne. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this is an area in dire need of reform. I believe that this is an anachronism. We have the possibility of some 10 days being allocated to speak on all sorts of things, which denies time to MLAs, particularly opposition MLAs and backbench MLAs, in dealing with private members' bills and resolutions. I'd like to see accountability. I'd like to see if the Freedom of Information Act is a good idea or a bad idea for it to be actually voted on. And that kind of reform is needed, and time is needed to allow that to happen. And this motion calls for the debate on this document to end quickly and to allow us to get into the business, the pressing business of Alberta. Mr. Speaker, I looked into Beauchesne, and the definition therein contained for a speech from the throne is summarized very clearly. It is that the speech sets out the causes for summoning MLAs. Causes, to me, presumes problems that exist, the challenges that have to be met, plans that have to be put forward. That wasn't done in the speech from the throne. It is a fluffy document that doesn't provide plans and challenges and action. I think it's important to get to the plans, to get to the action, to get to the bills, and I'm asking that members of this Assembly start moving on reform, and this is a good basis to do it.
There's a request under Standing Order 40. Those in favor of granting unanimous consent for the matter to proceed, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. The matter fails. Orders of the day.